Thank you everyone following this presentation. We will be introducing a one-year longitudinal study in which first-year university experience has been analyzed. Students experience considerable challenges in the transition to higher education, as this is a new learning environment. There have been claims for more longitudinal research to understand the students' adaptation along the year better. Here, 148 participants filled out a learning diary in a weekly and bi-weekly basis, reporting their satisfaction, challenges, emotion, motivation, and learning strategies. The first university academic year has higher dropout rates than the rest of the years. Considering that higher education dropouts has a significant social and economic impact, researchers have been exploring several variables that might impact a students' academic success in their first academic year. When a student faces the transition to higher education, they have to adapt to a new social and institutional environment, sometimes even changing the city where they live. In this line of work, there have been studies showing the evolution in variables like learning strategies. In this study, we explored the evolution of several of these variables through the first year of higher education. Firstly, satisfaction translates into a better change to recommend the institution to future students. Therefore, it is crucial to explore the evolution of satisfaction and what factors influence it to increase a student's academic success. This is a key variable for successful transition, but there is still a need for longitudinal and more detailed data, like the one that will be provided here. Secondly, higher education is a demanding educational context with several challenges to student abilities. When facing different challenges, students are expected to be able to use their already available skills, modifying their cognitive, metacognitive, motivational, and emotional reactions, and increasing their effort to adapt to the demands of the new context. Thirdly, emotional and motivational skills have been associated with successful adaptation to higher education. This is so because learning-related emotions like enjoyment, anxiety, boredom, and hopelessness play a crucial role in students' adaptation to university. And finally, the evolution of the use of learning strategies in the transition to higher education seems to show a positive change. This is coherent with the idea that higher education demands becoming an independent learner to deal with a new learning environment, while also requiring more context knowledge. So, what do the students report regarding these variables? To begin with, what is the trajectory of student satisfaction in the transition to higher education? What variables do students report in relation to their satisfaction? Following, what are the main academic challenges on the transition to higher education? Third, what are the emotional and motivational level trajectories and the main triggers? And last, what are the main learning strategies used and their trajectories? This study, being a one-year longitudinal nature, suffered experimental mortality. Among participants, 92 were women, and the vast majority of the participants were 18 years old. Participants had been contacted during the second half of the previous academic year at high school. Once at university, they provided some background information. Afterwards, weekly during the first month, bi-weekly during the rest of the first semester, and 3-weekly during the second semester, they filled out a learning diary. They had 2 individual interviews, but unfortunately, as there was a massive experimental mortality, this data will not be used for study purposes. And so, what did the results show? The participants' satisfaction decreased throughout the academic year, in the first 4 weeks due to experiencing a realistic view of their idealized view of university. By the end of the first and second semesters, their satisfaction decreased to a significant extent, as reported by them because of the number of assessment activities. Their return in the second semester showed the highest level of satisfaction as they reported having a more adjusted view. Here, it is important to remember there was a high mortality of participants at this point. Therefore, it could be that the ones that continued participating in the study were better adjusted. During the first 4 weeks, the most reported variables affecting positively or negatively their satisfaction with the transition to university was major election. After the first 4 weeks and during the academic year, the main variables affecting student satisfaction changed. In sum, performing a careful reading of this descriptive data, it seems feasible to maintain two hypotheses. First, the level of satisfaction are influenced by the academic development of the year, and second, that the motives that influence satisfactions changed during the academic year. What about the main academic challenges on the transition to higher education? All participants expressed their concern during the first 4 weeks and whether they would be ready and able to cope with the challenging university scenario. There was an unexpected finding in relation to freedom, considering that the question referred to challenges, and there was 80% of the participants answering aspects related to experiencing more freedom. The majority of the participants felt they had more responsibilities when compared to their high school years. For 71 participants, this had negative connotations. This challenge was reported exclusively during the first 4 weeks, with a high concentration in the second and third. The fact that it was not reported even once in the other 3 measurement occasions after 4 weeks might indicate that the participants felt more comfortable with anonymity or that teachers were able to create more welcoming and personal learning classroom climates later on the semester. Something similar occurred with this category. 93 participants reported it during the first 4 weeks. After, this challenge is barely not cited. Lastly, there were other categories reported to a lesser extent, some of which do not fall under the academic challenge category, but were still reported in this question: making new friends, mediocre food at the university, not staying healthy because of the lack of sport practice, need for a computer to follow the lectures. Finally, there were some personal challenges reported too, like emotional breakups, family economic situations, someone's disease. Some conclusions that can be extracted from this descriptive data are that the most cited academic challenges are such as this is the most reported category. Then, what are the emotional and motivational level trajectories and their main triggers? 3 positive emotions, joy, hope, and pride, had a similar pattern. The participants reported high levels during their first weeks at the university. However, when the semester end approached, there was a steep decline which occurred in both semesters. A group of 4 other emotions, relief, anger, shame, and boredom, had a similar pattern among them, with a slight decrease from the beginning of the academic year, with medium and low values, to lower ones by the end of the year. Regarding motivation, the participants started with energy and expectations the academic year, with high values during the first 4 weeks. This started going down until the end of the first semester, influenced by more academic demands and the assessment activities. There was a rise in motivation by the beginning of the second semester. It reached its lowest point by the end of the academic year, the period with the most assessment activities and where energy was running low. The main emotional and motivational triggers were 1. Assessment activities, and 2. Academic results. However, the third more frequent category, personal issues, includes aspects related to the personal life of other participants, such as falling in love, relationship breakup, death in family, problems with friends, etc. It is an interesting category as it is the only one that it is purely extraneous to the university setting. And for last, what are the main learning strategies used and their trajectories? The strategies reported are more related to acquiring and processing information than to explicit self-regulatory actions, such as regulation of the learning environment, motivation, or emotion. The most frequent ones were creating conceptual maps that helps reorganize information, summarizing information, repeating the information verbally, reading, underlining and understanding the materials, and memorizing. These strategies are related to more basic cognitive processing of information and can be interpreted as basic and simple strategies. Our aim in this study was to do a longitudinal analysis of the evolution of 5 crucial variables during the first year of university, informed through learning diaries and interviews: satisfaction, academic challenges, emotional and motivational trajectories, and learning strategies. Regarding research question 1, which was related to student satisfaction during the first year, we found that the pattern of satisfaction changed throughout the year. In our study, a decrease in student satisfaction occurred along both semesters, which might have been related to a higher number of assessment activities. This hypothesis would be in line with previous research finding, due to the differences from the ones in high school. However, satisfaction increased again, which could be related to overcoming the academic challenges from the first semesters, and a sense of achievement after coping with the first semester assessment. Regarding to the second research question, 3 findings. The first one is that our participants reported as challenges aspects with positive outcomes, which probably indicates that some levels of surprise of achievement after struggling. Secondly, over time, students reported fewer challenges, probably because participants became more realistic about the university environment or more comfortable in the new learning environment. And third, students do struggle during the transition, mostly with academic challenges, but also with feelings of anonymity or new friendships. Previous research emphasizes that it might be necessary to satisfy students' main initial expectations while helping them to overcome those challenges via adjustment to novel forms of assessment or paying attention to the relationship with teachers, as students feel teachers as less close. Regarding to research question 3, in which the emotional and motivational trajectories were explored, we found that some emotions raised in what seems to be a relationship with the number of assessment activities. This way, during the exam period, a student reported an increase of anxiety and sadness, and a decrease of joy, hope, pride, and motivation. Interestingly, our quality data also shows that a number of participants argued that their time had come to demonstrate what they learned and their unwavering effort. In other words, a positive reaction to the increase in assessment activities. The analysis of the main variables affecting emotion and motivation clearly shows that the students reported more usually negative balance of these triggers than positive, and that there was a wide range of trigger categories from assessment activities to tension with classmates or teachers to transportation issues. Finally, regarding to the fourth research question from the exploration of the use and development of learning strategies, a clear picture arises. Students mostly report strategies that aim for information acquisition and processing. There was barely no report of more advanced learning and self-regulatory strategies. This result is in opposition to the transitional jump regarding learning strategies found in earlier studies. We must also take into account that sometimes students perceive they are learning below what they are actually learning. Finally, it is extremely important to emphasize that here we used an open question approach. It could be the case that the questionnaires approach biasing students towards reporting the use of strategies they are not really using. In conclusion, our study has added to the evidence that the transition to higher education is a challenge for students, as shown after a one-year longitudinal study. A remarkable example is being able to study the top choice major, which is a crucial variable during the first weeks, but disappears soon after, in benefit of other variables that end up being more relevant for students' satisfaction during the academic year. The fact that these are far from being static indicates that students undergo different phases, and universities should better prepare them with more specific interventional programs. Additionally, the effects of being assessment activities in students' emotions and motivations are higher than expected, being the most cited trigger by far. Teachers should be aware of these effects as making changes on their assessment practices and try to make them formative would probably have a very significant effect. That's all. Thanks for your attention.